Weird things you did not know about Cleopatra. Cleopatra was more than just a pretty face. She was a powerful ruler and a brilliant strategist. But did you know that Cleopatra was the last pharaoh of ancient Egypt? Or that she was fluent in 9 languages? Or that she invented her own form of currency? Cleopatra is one of history's most fascinating figures, and there are still plenty of things we don't know about her. So today, we are going to explore some of the most weird and interesting facts about this iconic queen. So, watch the video till the end and let us know in the comments what your favorite Cleopatra fact was. Did you know that Cleopatra was Macedonian, not Egyptian? Yes, it's true! In fact, she was actually Roman. While some might say this makes her less interesting than Egyptians, I disagree. It is important to remember that a person can be many things at once. An Egyptian-born member of the royal Ptolemaic dynasty who had Greek citizenship and adopted Roman customs when she became queen. She has become an icon for both cultures, ancient Egypt and Greece, the East and West, civilization versus barbarism. She did win over Mark Antony. Cleopatra dressed as a man. Cleopatra was very fashionable, and she wanted to look good at all times. Cleopatra believed that her sex appeal was her best political weapon, so she did what she had to do in order to look sexy as hell while still being able to keep up with the boys when it came time for one of their traditional chariot races through Alexandria's streets. Cleopatra was also a tomboy who didn't want any part of being treated like a baby doll or kept locked up in some harem somewhere just waiting for some rich old man to come along and marry her because he needed an heir or something, which happened often. She had already been married once before, to one of Julius Caesar's guys, but that didn't work out well, and now here she was living alone with no real prospects, and being treated like trash by everyone else around her because they assumed that since she was female and not Roman, then it made sense for them all to treat her poorly too. In addition to being one of the most famous rulers in history, Cleopatra was also a stepmother and mother. She had 4 children with Julius Caesar, who was married to another woman at the time. These were Caesarion, the son, Alexander Helios and Ptolemy Philadelphus, the twins, and Selene Iotope of Cyrene, the daughter. She later had 3 children with Mark Antony, Antyllus, Antonia Minor, and Drusilla of Mauritania. She met and married Mark Antony without ever meeting him in person. Cleopatra met and married Mark Antony without ever meeting him in person. Why? Because he was a general and she was a queen. She sent him a statue of herself as a gift, which he liked so much that he wanted to meet her. She sent him a letter and they started corresponding with each other via messenger pigeons, which they had trained. Her famous asp bite was inspired by mythology. Cleopatra's famous asp bite, in which she took her own life in 30 BC, is often credited to the effects of suicide by snake venom. However, it's more likely that she committed suicide with a poisonous snake because she was inspired by mythology rather than actual biology. It was common for members of the ancient Egyptian royal families to be worshipped as gods, especially women. When Cleopatra died, people assumed that she had become one with Osiris, the god of resurrection and rebirth who would eventually return again to Earth. But before then, so they believed, he would have to lie beside his wife Isis while she nursed him back to health after his death and resurrection. This period was called the time between, because many of these beliefs were based on Greek mythology during this time period, as opposed to the scientific fact, although some did exist. Cleopatra may not have known if any sort of venomous snake poison would actually kill her when combined with an asp bite. But regardless, what happened next was said by Plutarch. The sting pierced through the folds into her side. She was near swooning from pain. Her father was actually her mother's brother, who ruled Egypt from 51 to 30 BC. You might not be aware that Cleopatra VII was actually inbred. Her father, Ptolemy XII, was her mother's brother and the last pharaoh of Egypt. He inherited his throne after murdering his mother and her husband, but soon died himself, probably poisoned by his wife. And Cleopatra became queen when she was 18 years old. She married 2 of her brothers before marrying Julius Caesar, who made her ruler of Egypt as well as Rome for a time. After Caesar's death in 44 BC, Antony took over rule from Octavian, the future Augustus. They had 3 children together: Alexander Helios, Alexander the son, and Ptolemy Philadelphus, brotherly lover, both born sometime between 43 and 40 BC. Then Cleopatra Selene II, moon lover, born around 30 BC. Cleopatra ruled alone as pharaoh for 22 years of her life, as opposed to just a few years with Caesar and Mark Antony. You may be wondering how she was able to rule Egypt for 22 years by herself. After all, she only ruled with Julius Caesar for 2 years and Mark Antony for 2 more. The answer is that Cleopatra had her brother Ptolemy XIV as co-ruler during her father's reign, and then later when he became pharaoh after the death of their father Caesarion. She also ruled alone after her son Ptolemy XV Caesarion died at a young age in 51 BC. Cleopatra was an educated woman. She learned much of her education from her father. She studied science and medicine, as well as philosophy and languages. As a result of these studies and her keen intellect, Cleopatra was able to speak several languages: Koine Greek, Egyptian, Ethiopian, Troglodyte, Hebrew, Arabic, Syrian, Median, Parthian, and Latin. In addition to being well educated in the traditional sense of the word, i.e. book smart, Cleopatra also proved herself to be quite capable of handling matters of state, particularly during difficult times. She knew how to keep the peace between Egypt's people and its neighboring countries. This is evidenced by the fact that under her rule, Egypt enjoyed more than 3 centuries of prosperity without war with any country except Rome. While many thought she was the most beautiful woman in the world, there is no real evidence that she was. While many thought she was the most beautiful woman in the world, there is no real evidence that she was. In all likelihood, Cleopatra had a dark skin tone and an average-looking nose. If you were living in Egypt at that time, you might find her to be pretty, but otherwise, she would not stand out for her beauty. Also, please note that this does not mean that other women were more beautiful than Cleopatra or even on par with her. She was probably average just because there is no evidence against them being more attractive than her either. Cleopatra is often depicted in snake jewelry. Cleopatra's name, Cleopatra, comes from Greek and means glory to her father. Her parents named her after their own glory. According to the ancient Greeks, snakes were considered symbols of wisdom, sexual prowess, and healing. It is no surprise that many people wore snake jewelry throughout history because of these qualities. If you've seen any pictures or videos of Cleopatra in her younger days, including animated ones, you might have noticed that she was often depicted as a snake. This is because of how closely related they are. Both can hypnotize people with their gaze and charm them with their voices. Cleopatra was able to lure Julius Caesar away from his wife by using her powers over men. She was able to seduce Mark Antony away from his love for Octavian's sister Octavia Minor by using her powers over women. And finally, she used those very same abilities on herself when she took her own life after being defeated by Rome at Actium. She designated the Roman calendar day on which she died as a holiday. As you might imagine, Cleopatra was quite the celebrity. She was well known for her beauty and intelligence, and she also had a knack for attracting powerful men. She used this to her advantage in many ways. She used it to win over Mark Antony, who would become her husband. She used it to gain power in Egypt after Ptolemy XII died, and then again when he died suddenly, again. So when we say she designated the Roman calendar day on which she died as a holiday, what we mean is that Cleopatra designated December 18th as a holiday, the same date that Julius Caesar had been murdered years before, and one day before his birthday. This made sense because of how much she admired him, but also because there was a tradition of celebrating deaths within Egyptian culture at large. Cleopatra was not immortal. She was a real person and she died at the age of 39. Although you may have heard that she was Egyptian, that isn't true either. She was Greek by birth. In fact, she wasn't even royalty. Her parents were kings, but they ruled Egypt as vassals of Rome. And although many people think of her as the last pharaoh who ruled Egypt, in reality, there were several pharaohs after her death until Egypt became part of the Roman Empire in 30 BC. So this makes sense too. The point is that although we often think of Cleopatra as an immortal who lived forever simply because we've heard stories about her over thousands of years since then, well, it's more complicated than that. Cleopatra is famous and admired today for many reasons. She took control of a kingdom in her teens, was a good leader, and governed capably for 21 years. Despite her marriage to 2 foreign consuls, she ensured that wealth of Egypt stayed in Egyptian hands, kept an eye on price increases, founded schools and temples, and improved irrigation systems. Ancient Egyptians loved their queen, but the Romans? Not so much. After all, they did fight 2 wars against her over control of Egypt. And as we have seen here today, although history has long portrayed Cleopatra as a vain and manipulative woman who used sex to get what she wanted from men, there is so much more to learn about this amazing woman that we may not have known before. We hope you enjoyed learning about some of the weird things you didn't know about Cleopatra. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment below, and don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this one. Thanks for watching!